got?
All right, my next one. We talked about this band before, and these guys were like real big
Yeah.
in the area. They formed, I guess, they formed in the early '80s. But in the wake of Motley Crue and Rat and Kiss and Wasp and all his bands, here comes a band
Yeah.
from I think they started in like the Lansdale area called Teeze. Um, this is the original issue of the record they put out. It got reissued with this cover, and this gives you a better idea of the image these guys had. This was like called their
Yeah.
rags look, like the fucking real like ripped up. I never got to see them with this either.
Oh, okay.
This is let me see, Louis Rivera vocals here, Greg Malik on guitar, Dave Weekly on bass, and then this is Brian Stover on guitar, and his brother Kevin was their drummer. Now, this lineup really made waves in the area. I mean, they were like a phenomenal live band. The stuff you would expect a band like this to do
Yeah.
live. Built up quite a following, open for people, had a good name for themselves, and they played a lot in the whole area and in the region. Look at it, like you know, they had a great
Is that the second
live.
pressing of that record? Because that's the
This
one
is the
I
se-
have.
this
Okay.
is the second pressing. This one came out on. This one is on. Where'd my glasses go? Oh, don't try this at home, kids.
Try those until you find the other ones.
This is on SMC Records, and it stands for exactly what you think it does. Um, this was released themselves in '84, so it's right in there with when right on the heels of Shot at the Devil and Wasp, and I
Yeah.
mean it fits in with that musically too. It's like real amped up, like um, melodic sleazy metal. It's
Yeah.
there's really nothing bluesy about this. This is like sleaze metal. Like you could hear Kiss, you could hear Wasp, you hear like Old Crew,
Sure.
Rat, like all that kind of thing. It
Yeah.
was freaking good, dirty shock
Sleaze.
rock
Yeah.
kind of stuff, sleaze. And then this one, Green World ended up distributing this, so it got like a wider distribution.
Sure. Okay.
Um, and of course, it still says SMC Productions on the back, which is hilarious. Um, the uh, the track listing is one, two, three, four, five, eight. There's like one extra, two, three, four, six. There's an extra track on this called On the Run.
Okay.
But I mean, you got Party Hardy,
Yeah.
great. Like I remember playing this song. Like but I had this on cassette. This actually has an extra on the cassette. There's an extra track on here too,
Okay.
um, called "Crank It Up." I don't have the cassette anymore. And the CD that they're reissuing is on the way at some point. But Party Hardy, just like this
Yeah.
driving, like great, like upbeat, like glam metal song. I'd play it over and over in my Walkman. But all these songs are like Midnight Madness is killer. When the Moon is Full is like a moody kind of thing.
Yeah.
On the Run is more like up. Again, it's more like that in that like heavier crew
Sure. Sure.
kind of thing. Looking for You, just sleaze metal like
Yeah.
Rat and
Yeah.
um, Hellraiser upbeat. Some way starts out kind of like it's got these mellow verses and then it picks up. It was actually like really cool. I saw them when they became Rough House.
Hmm.
Actually, I did see them as Teeze once, but not with the Stover Brothers. But they would open with it, which is a weird song to open with. If you hear it, like it starts out kind of mellow and then picks up, and it's
Yeah.
like it's a really cool like kind of. You figure they're gonna open with like Crank It Up or Party Hardy, and they open with Somewhere Some Way. It's like it's pretty cool.
But it
I
worked,
love it.
right?
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Huh?
It worked though.
Yeah. I mean, that's what my favorite song on this record. I think. Leave Me to Burn is cool. It's moody, kind of like, and go. I mean, Going Away. I mean, all these songs are cool. look at these dudes, man. Like, just I don't, you can't get like they're just like
Yeah.
it's a cool look. And then I guess the at some point, I think around 86 or so, the Stover brothers left.
Okay.
I don't know the reasons. From what I gather online, it was your typical mix of competing
Sure.
goals, time frames for doing things, and personal interpersonal stuff. So they actually
Yeah.
split the band, and then they were replaced with a guy named Mike Natalini on drums, and then Rex Eisen, who also goes by Trip Eisen, who was in um, Static X. I think. Hang on a second, I'm an idiot. I should have written it down. He was in a band like that got
I don't know my
Static X.
Static
He
X
went
stuff.
by Trip Eisen
Okay.
when he was in Static X. So he of that lineup, he went on to also have some success with them.
Gotcha.
So that lineup forms, and then there's still Teeze
Sure.
for a while. And I did finally get to see them. I saw them at a place called the Roxy in Northampton,
Okay.
which Rush played back in the day. There's actually a bootleg out there too of Rush playing in Northampton at the
Oh, is that
Roxy.
right?
Yeah,
Really?
you can get it on vinyl. I've seen it on Rocketdrome's site. Kiss
Oh,
played
yeah.
there
Okay.
back in the day. So I saw two concerts at the Roxy in my lifetime. I saw Metal Wolf out of Philadelphia, who were awesome, like similar kind of like melodic metal, like a dock, more like a Dokken
Okay.
style, kind of like melodic metal band. And then I saw Teeze there. And it was cool. You know,
Yeah.
it was just cool. They had like a good production. The drums were way up and they had a
Sure.
big riser and just, they look cool. The
Yeah.
lights were cool, the smoke and all that kind of stuff. But they did change their look. They went from, their rags look to more of a traditional, like just kind of like,
Yeah.
I still dress like a metal band, again, they weren't
Yeah.
like just coming up off the streets in like a plain t-shirt and jeans. They
Right.
looked
Right.
good. I mean, they were like a hair, they had the hair metal aesthetic
Yeah.
or whatever.
Just kind of toned down a little bit.
Yeah, and it was like, Dave Weekly was cool on stage, a bass player. He always did this like, here's one of those guys, like always reminded me a little bit of like Mick Mars,
Okay.
although just kind of like looked a little different than the other guys. Like and he would do these like robotic kind of like moves on stage while he's playing. He still makes music. I mean, still making music with his own band, I think called Weekly. I'm saying his name wrong, man. Weekly, yeah. Um, so they have a lot of momentum going, and then they get signed to
Okay.
Columbia or CBS, but the label makes them change the name. They don't want to use the name Teeze. There's an R&B band on the label called Teeze, Tease, and then there was the Canadian band who at the time wasn't even active, but Teaze. So they changed the name and they picked the name Rough
Rough
House.
House. Okay.
And so then they're playing in the Valley now from, and in the area and touring when they got around to like 91, they did some touring after this record came out.
Hmm.
Um, it's still good following. This is a good record. It's not as good, I don't think, as the other one. There's some of the stuff fits like some of it's in the same vein as what they were doing, that more like amped up kind of like
I was just going to ask
um
you that. Yeah.
yeah, like there's songs on here like well, first of all, they re-recorded Midnight Madness on here, which is from the old record, which I'm
Hmm.
not quite sure. It's a great song, so I guess they wanted. And then they had a song called Justify. That sounds like older Teeze, and Racing was actually like a Teeze demo, I think, before they put it on this record. And there's like Don't Go Away, like when I first got this, and it's the first one that comes on, it's like an AOR
Yeah.
kind of song. It's like, whoa,
Not what you're
that's not the
expecting. Yeah.
not what I expected at all. And then Tonight was the video. They did a video. I guess the management initially didn't want to do one, and they got them buckle, and they did it, and it got some airplay on MTV. That was more like they went more of a rock and roll
Hmm.
kind of like vibe, like more like glam rock
Okay.
kind of thing on it, like more like late 80s kind of. You know how like how Rat went from
Yeah.
the EP and Out of the Cellar and Invasion, like then they started getting them. There was like a more
Yeah.
bluesy, like
Mm-hmm.
stripper rock kind of thing that like with girls
Sure.
with Motley Crue, like it was a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah.
dirtier.
Yep.
Well, that's what like some of this Tonight kind of fits in with like Poison,
Okay.
kind of like that. And there's a few songs on here like that. Um, Love or Lust is a good just like glam metal song.
Yeah.
Can Five Love kind of like sits in between like it's kind of like Teeze with a little bit of AOR
Mm-hmm.
in it. It's a catchy record. It's not it just doesn't have the
The punch. Yeah.
like this record has like a metallic punch to it that bands at this time. I mean, it's 83,
Yeah.
84. Bands were still,
Yep.
we were still calling stuff like this metal
Yeah.
at the time. By the time you got around to the 80s, we weren't calling it hair metal yet, but it wasn't like, I can't really call this a metal record. This is a
Sure.
metal record to me. I
Yep.
mean, this is like fits in with what Kiss was doing at the time. And
Right.
again, to repeat
Right.
Wasp and shout at the end. And this is like, fits in with what Crew was doing at this time.
Yep.
And, they I could have seen them opening for, they'd have been great with Guns N' Roses, or they'd have been great with Aerosmith, or,
Mm-hmm.
any number of Cinderella, like those kind of bands. But again, I mean, cool image and stuff. They were great live. I saw
Yeah.
them. I was fortunate enough to see them, man. I saw them at the Roxy, the Airport Music Hall, and then I saw them like a couple times at this place called DJ Bananas,
Mm-hmm.
which is this small place, man. It's they used to have. I was talking about this earlier. They had all ages shows on Sunday nights,
Right.
and so if I wasn't, I was working for this company called Birch Radio Research, and I a bunch of kids from my high school, and I went and worked there. We would be on the phone for 5 hours calling people and asking what radio stations they listen to. Funny side story about that, real quick too, is that my boss knew I was a metalhead, and he's like, "Do you ever hear a Riot?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I love Thundersteel," and he's like,
Yeah.
"Don Van Stavern's my cousin."
Oh no shit.
And I'm like, "Why is this like small world kind of stuff?"
That's
But
funny. Wow.
yeah. But anyway, if I was able to get out of there, once in a while we got out a little bit early if things were slow, or depending on who was playing. If I thought I could make it, I would shoot over to
Yeah.
DJ Bananas and try to get it, because the show started a little bit earlier.
Sure.
But yeah, man, I could see Roughhouse in this small place. Like the setup of the place is kind of weird. You came in the door and there's a bar off to the side as you come in, and then the stage is in front of the bar. Then there's an open area over here. So you're either in this like open area where the tables were looking this way at the stage,
Mm-hmm.
or there was some space between the bar and the stage. But it was like, maybe you could get like 8 deep, or
Yeah.
if that, like 6, 7. So, and as the stage, you were packed in. My band Druid played there. I mean, to tell you how small the place is, I mean, it was like usually bands on Sundays, it was like they had 3 bands. You had to sell, you didn't sell tickets at a time. What they did was like you handed tickets out to people,
Yeah.
and they turned it in at the door, and you got like paid based on how many got turned in.
Okay.
If the owner, I forget his name now, but Joe Banana got 30 tickets
Mm-hmm.
for your band, then you got X amount of
Right.
dollars or whatever, and
Sure.
and that helped, like in terms of if you were going to play there again,
Sure.
how you drew. We
Yeah, I was
always
gonna say it's like an
that,
instant measurement of draw. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and our phrase for it was, you find out who your real friends are. Like when you're in high school, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, my band is playing, are you going to come out or not? Like,
Right.
so it was cool, like seeing them in a place like this, and they still try to like, they cram it, they still brought the smoke, and they would still like jump around like crazy people, like no matter how limited their space was, but just like a great energetic live band. Lewis's voice is like real identifiable, like compared to other singers in that style. Like he sounded like if you took, if it was almost like if you had Kiss and Motley Crue but with Geddy Lee singing. Okay. He's got this higher pitched kind of thing going on. which was unique compared to what other singers were doing. And I was just watching video of them playing from like 2022, a
Hmm.
reunion show. And he sounded great on the
Yeah.
first song. I mean, and then just to wrap it up, like these dudes. So obviously, unfortunately, um, the album didn't take off. It stiffed, and it's kind of like a cult kind of record along
Yeah.
with the other one. But over the years, they've done reunion shows. They had a different guitar player at one time, but I'm pretty sure has been playing with them when they've been doing shows. And they have a reunion show coming up in May on the 31st, I guess, at a place called the Gin Mill in Northampton. I was just reading about it online. We were just talking about it actually.
Yep.
Like our friends in a band called Sinister Realm were supposed to play that night at the Gin Mill, and it ended up getting double booked. So they had to move Sinister Realm to Friday, the
Yeah.
30th, and Teeze is playing on the 31st. So we get to relive some Lehigh Valley rock and roll there,
Hell
like
yeah.
2 nights in a row, metal with Sinister Realm, and hopefully we're gonna try to have them on the show at some point. Would like to get John and
Yeah,
Alex on here and
definitely.
those guys, John. Um, and then so Tease does his reunions. If you were a fan, if you're watching this and you like the band, you never got to see them. Like we're at the point in our lives where it's like you gotta, if you want to see them,
Now's your
like
chance.
try
Yeah.
to get out and see these bands because you never know when you get a chance again. I
Right.
mean, they'd be in their
Right.
late 50s at this point, early 60s, I think. They're still like playing well, cool band. I haven't seen them in what 30, 40 years now, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be a trip. I'm thinking about going to the show. So
Time machine,
um,
man. That'll be like a total time
yeah, they were
machine.
such it was I mean this album, like I shit you not, like it's one of, if I was doing a list of you know the top 100 like hard rock heavy metal records in the 80s that um got the most play in my house. Like I love this record as much as some of the stuff that we all point to, like that was
Hmm.
big at the
Yeah.
time. Like I love that record as much as, you know, maybe not as much as Shout at the Devil, but it's right in there with it. Like in the Wasp album, the first
Right.
Wasp, and some of stuff Kiss was doing at the time, and it's like in the mix, man. It's like,
Yeah.
to me, I never thought about them or Washed as just like these are just local dudes. This was like
Yeah.
music that I listened to all the time.
Right. Right.
Like these albums or this music is like great. Like these records are not overlooked certainly by people that grew up
Sure.
in the valley loving them, but overall way underrated, like tremendous records that I think if you like glam metal on like the little bit of the heavier side, and then
Yeah.
as for the rough house stuff, if you like just like party rock, like Poison, later Molly Crew,
Sure.
you have to check. I would check these dudes out. Like great band.
I've got that album and it's good. And actually, I may have heard the name here and there, but until you and I started talking a little bit more about it and that album came up and you spoke of it so highly, I went out and got it. I was like, yeah, this is some
Yeah,
pretty good
it's
stuff. It's good.
the sleazy
Yeah.
metal, man. Sex and drugs and rock and roll.
It's like Faster Pussycat before Faster Pussycat was a thing. It's got that kind of sleazy vibe to
Yeah,
it.
if they were like a metal band instead of like a dirty Hanoi
Yeah.
Rocks
Right.
but just like that, just the some of the lyrics and stuff are just like, it's
Yeah.
just good sleazy metal, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
right, so my next one, man, we live for this band too. And this is, 84, 85, going into 86, with Screamer also. And then, by the time we got to drinking age, we got to see these guys a little bit, later on in their careers. But, before we were drinking age, that's when, everything was really forming, things are moving. We're like, oh, these guys they're gonna do it too. And, these guys would play at some of the all ages stuff, but they played the bigger bars in town. We had Hawks, and there was a place called Jack's, and there was another one around that time too. PT's had quite a few bands playing, but I will say too, if there's a band that deserves like their own episode of like behind the music or a documentary, and I definitely I would love to have my Billy Polera was the drummer for this band. I'll just bust it out. There's a band called Nick Fury, and Billy Polera was the drummer, and I've kept in touch quite a bit with Billy off and on over the years, and I just had an excellent conversation with Billy today. I just wanted to kind of get one thing straight to make sure I didn't screw it up when we were talking about it on here. But we talked for an hour, and I would love to have him on here for an episode. Just even if you have no idea who this band is, you don't know Billy, you don't know anything. These guys were within grasp of taking it over and getting it like three different times. And things, fell apart, and they back down the hill they rolled and climbed back up, and it was right there again. And I don't want to use the word like tragic or anything like that, but it's like, God, they were right there, And Billy's a fantastic guy. And the bulk of Nick Fury and the bands that evolved out of Nick Fury were the Crucianelli brothers. Very, very talented family in Kenosha. So anyway, Nick Fury, these guys I think were like power metal before anybody knew what power metal really was.
Mhm.
And I would dare say these guys were privy to Y&T back at that time period too, because it's like Judas Priest, some Y&T. There's even like Hallows Eve. There's some stuff
Oh,
going on
damn.
there too. Yeah, and the funny thing is one of the girls that we were in junior high with at the time, she was cousins with, I forget now, one of the guys in the band or related to the band, and she had a copy of their demo that they had cut, which I'll get to in a second. And we played the crap. I mean, we dubbed it back and forth. I don't know. There's probably like 27th generation tapes of this floating around. This was a recent reissue, finally, from the Scandinavian company, I think I want to say, or Netherlands, from like 2 years ago. They finally put this out. Um, but man, just this is just hard driving, like on the absolute hardest side of hard rock, and then metal. Yeah, in Rock We Trust, Time Is Right, Reason to Rock is so good. And then there's like a slower one called Do It Till We Can't Walk. And it's just got this plotting, do it till you can. It just, oh, it's so, so good. So we would see these guys all the time. Every time we knew that Nick Fury was playing, we're like, we gotta go, we gotta go. And they did some opening slots for some bigger bands. T.A. Verne's was a larger bar just outside of Milwaukee. If I remember right, they opened for a couple of bigger bands. Anyway, so they're starting to get some exposure. They're building it. They get some investors, and I'm going to give like the short version of this story because there's so much involved in it. It's like a story unto its own. They find some investors. They go out to L.A. They get recording time. They cut the demo that we ended up dubbing a million times. Come back, play some shows, and then it's okay. You know what? These investors, they got everything together. Back out to California, and they're going to do a showcase. They play the whiskey. I mean, have a great time there. Historic stage. They're ready to go the
Iconic,
next.
yeah.
Yeah, next day they're doing a showcase in front of, I think Billy said 13 or 14 label heads. And these guys all got their pens, papers ready, and they're like, "This is it. This is going to be it." And I'm just going to give the very bland version of it. I'm not mentioning any names or anything, but the fall of it all was, you're in LA. There's a lot of extracurricular
Mhm.
activities going on. And yeah, that showcase did not go according to plan how they hoped. And literally, they watched everybody walk out one by one. So,
Man.
yeah, that, yeah. So the Nick Fury era kind of came to an end. They came back, played around Kenosha quite a bit. Nick Fury then would kind of morph into a band called Crucial Nelly, and it was a little bit short lived. They ended up back to California, did a lot of writing, creating songs, thought that was going to be the next one. Kind of short lived. Crucial Nelly morphed into another band that was called Brother Six. Completely, like, completely different from what Nick Fury was, where Nick Fury was metal, and it was Billy, it was the brother. Brother Six was this awesome groove funk band with big organs and just that groove
I don't know if you
and
could say that, man.
big organs, big,
They had really big
they had really
organs.
big organs on stage.
Sorry.
I left the
There's
door.
kids watching, Mike.
I left the door wide open for that. Thanks, Butch. But just really good, and this is the early '90s too, so it was not exactly like the flavor of the day because early '90s everybody's grunge and Pearl Jam and this and that.
Right.
So this was, and coming from me, metalhead, I loved Brother Six. I thought they were fucking great, and they had a huge following. You couldn't get near some of the places that they played in town because everybody was going to see them. They would play all the big places around here. I think they played Summerfest, which is, the largest music fest in the world in Milwaukee. Um, and we thought that was going to go. They ended up taking some of those songs that they wrote during the Crucial Nelly sessions and put out an album called Family Album, Brother Six, which actually it ended up being a live album, and it sounded so good, and it really captured the essence of the band. Um, and then how they say bands are a lot like families and they fight, and
Hmm.
it's same kind of thing happened, and things started to fall apart, and then things were kind of dormant for a little bit. But Billy's a go-getter, man, and he likes to play drums. So him and Steve Crucianelli and another local guy by the name of Joe Gajan started up a band called Electric Revolution, which was just a three-piece at the start, and really good, just groove rock and roll, fun stuff, good choruses. And then the former singer from Nick Fury, Dave Lawson, he joined. So it was a four-piece, and they opened up for Wishbone Ash and Dave Meniketti and Angel. They opened up for anybody that was coming through, and they were off and running too. And same thing. It's like they fell into that cycle. Like they're almost there, and then circumstances beyond their control kind of derail everything,
Man.
you know. And then, it's sad, that takes them through the 80s and 90s, and you know, time stops for nobody, and the aging process doesn't give a shit. So,
Yep.
but luckily a lot of the guys, a lot of the local guys that we've had in Kenosha still have that creative drive, and age is just a thing, and they keep putting out quality stuff. So, and I think Billy's gonna have something else coming up real soon too. So can't uh can't keep a good musician down. But just to kind of back up, Nick Fury was so good. This is such a good compilation of songs. You talk to anybody in the Kenosha area and you mention Nick Fury, and they might shout out a lyric here and there, but everybody remembers going to see these guys. They were just so good, so fun. So Nick Fury, and I'll there's some video out there of both Nick Fury and Screamer, and I'll make sure I get the links in the description so everybody can check it out.
Yeah, that'd be great. I have to check. I'm gonna have to check that out. That sounds up my alley, man.
It would, yeah, seriously. I know you're familiar with the Screamer album, but this would be right up your alley, man. This is just such good metal. Yeah, you'd love it. It's good stuff. So that's
Nice.
Yeah, I hope to be able to do this again, and we can kind of bring up a couple other local bands that deserve a little attention or rediscovery, and putting them out on the interwebs and introducing other people to them.
Yeah, definitely. And we got friends that are all spread out through
Yes, we do.
the country too and the world. So,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, like let us hear, like we said, I want to hear what bands are from your area. Like, I mean, I might just rattle even that Nick Fury alone. Like, if there's three bands related to it, I want to hear all of those too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, let's hear the bands from your area that you thought should have gotten a better shake. And we want to check it out because I
Yeah.
can never get enough good music in my
No,
ears. So
no, me either. And tell us the timelines of these bands. What did they turn into? What other bands were born from the demise of one going into another? We like to hear all of that. So, yeah,
yeah, and what your scene was like I know for years anyway. I mean, I guess because I never really, I was always kind of like on the outside of the, I was late to the scene. I wasn't like, I actually didn't like really bloom like into my what talent I have until I was well into my 20s. So, um, I mean, I had a band late in high school, but I was never a part of the scene itself where I knew
yeah,
people locally. We were playing like we were like I was never in a band that was could have played with these bands and held
no,
our
me
own
either.
or and but to me like it seemed weird to me like coming out to Pittsburgh because when I went to see these bands, obviously, first of all, when they were opening for bands, there was none of this like playing covers. Maybe one
Yeah,
for fun they throw in the set. Like I see bands out here that promoters put on bills now that are all play all covers the whole
yeah.
set. It makes
I
me
don't
want to
agree
pull
with that.
my hair out. But
Me too. Me too. I don't agree
so,
with
and
that one
then
bit.
like on all ages nights, it was always like everyone played their own stuff. Like there was always like this band Riff Raff had like they, every once in a while a local band like has that one cover that they kind of get like their fans where they do a good job on. Like Riff Raff used to play Bathroom Wall
Right.
every show, and it kind of like became their one of their
Sure.
signature things to do. But they played all their own shit, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, like you said, I get that, throwing in one cover just for the sake of it. And it helps pump a crowd up and everything like that. But, those bands that have five, six, seven covers in there, or like you just said, they're just a cover band opening up for, a national or regional act. That bothers me a little bit.
Yeah, and it's like it'd be interesting to go back and talk to some of these people now to see. I would like to know what the scene is like because what I experienced out here as an adult in my first like real bands here in the Pittsburgh area in the clubs was like, oh shit, what do you mean you don't want to hear our own material? You want to hear us play covers all night? We're
Yeah.
not doing that. We're playing our own stuff, which
Yep.
made us a lot of fans playing at places like Blondie's in Greensburg and um, no one wanted. I mean, the biggest bands in Pittsburgh, like Triple X, was huge, and those dudes like drew. I mean,
Yeah.
you used to go to shows just because you knew there were going to be so many girls
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
at the shows
Yeah.
because they drew like so many people.
Yeah.
Like, so it was kind of like you had like them and Raquel, like bands like that. But you'd go, and even though Triple X was gigantic, like I saw them up for Don Dock, and they played all originals.
Hmm.
And then you'd go see them locally, and it would be like they'd dink and dunk the originals into the set. They'd play like maybe two per set. The rest would be AC/DC and Aerosmith and the Stones and
Yeah.
whatever, a lot of AC/DC. Like Tim Amar, like one of the greatest singers ever, sang for them for a long time. And like he could hit, like, he did a great, he did great Brian Johnson and Bon Scott. Like
Yeah.
he was awesome. So they played a lot of AC/DC in their sets, but they played a lot of covers, man. And they could have, I always felt like they could have, because people knew some of their originals. So
Sure.
it was weird, like going from, I guess what I'm saying is in the valley, like I just assumed like it was like an originals area, but I don't know that that's the. I think maybe that was just maybe it was just isolated to what I witnessed.
Hmm.
So it'd be interesting to talk to. So so let us know what your areas were like, man. I don't know. Every band I saw back then played originals.
Yeah.
Bands like Kraken and but I saw Kraken actually, or the singer from Kraken has also passed on. I went back for a class reunion, and the band he was in, they were, it was a cover band. So I'm interested to know what the areas people grew up in were like, what the scene
Yeah.
was like. Was it original? Or was it, a mix of covers, or did you, were they all, was it like metal or punk or
Yeah.
whatever? Because every area is, has its
Different.
own flavor.
I can say, in my area in the 80s, then into the early 90s, where it started to kind of, calm down a little bit. But back then, like I said, all of that was going on before I was of legal age to get into some of these clubs.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody does their best to kind of sneak in, but you could literally, and I talked to friends of mine that were older that were in the clubs during that time. You could literally, just say Friday night, Saturday, you could go to like four different places with four completely different bands, and all four of them were packed. It just that's how like strong the scene was. And let's just say three out of those four bands were completely all original, and maybe there was a cover band playing someplace. So original music in my area at that point in time was really really thriving. And I know in Milwaukee it was even bigger. There was so much going on there. I never got to Chicago, at that age. I'm assuming it was just as large as it was here. But and then in the 90s when I was getting out and going to the clubs and stuff, you could sense things were kind of, calming down a little bit.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to go down that whole grunge route. You and I have talked about that. I think metal kind of snuffed itself out, to be honest.
Yeah.
But then there was that switch, at least in my area, where all of a sudden the cover bands were starting to make a heck of a lot more, and they were drawing way more than the originals. There was just that complete, polar shift going on.
Yeah.
And then even worse, and if you do this for a living, I'm not knocking it and everything, but then, the rise of the DJs and club owners were like, well, shit, I only got to pay one guy here compared to like getting a draw to
Yeah.
pay. And then, that kind of put the kibosh on a lot of different things. Now, I think it's kind of starting to, and I'm only speaking on my area. I think it's starting to come back around a little bit. I think original bands are starting to come up and about a little bit more. Now that my youngest is just putting his feet into the live area and playing out a little bit. And I'm starting to kind of pick up on some of the other bands in the area, and they're all original, and it's all different types of music. It was predominantly metal and hard rock when I was growing up. I think that was just a sign of the times, though. That was
Hmm.
the era for it. So you had a lot of that, but now it's all over the place. We have a big lakefront festival called Taste of Wisconsin, and
I heard it
there's
tastes like cheese
it smells like bratwurst, tastes like cheese
and butter.
and beer. But they put up I think there's three or four different stages, and every single stage has got a completely different type of band, and every single stage is just crowded as hell. So it's alive and well when you can get out and see it. And things seem to have to be set specific in specific areas and given the specific
Uh-huh.
time for people to work around to be able to go see that. It's not like it used to be where it's the weekend, Friday, Saturday, you can just go wherever you want, see who you want. You know, it's a different time. Coming from
Yeah.
two old farts talking about the glory days.
It's interesting to me too, like just my last point is some of these bands that, like, if you didn't grow up in the if you're not from the Pittsburgh area and you're in another state
Hmm.
and you hear, like, word gets out about good bands, that these records, like
Sure.
these recordings get out there, so people like hear about Triple X, or they hear about Raquel, or they hear about, there was a band from like Altoona or Johnstown called Inside Out, and there was a
Okay.
band from around here called High Voltage, like, and they hear about these bands, and there's like CDs and stuff out there you can get,
Yeah.
and they're like prized collectors type of things, and like people, like, it's funny to me being from here, speaking of Pittsburgh specifically, like in the suburbs,
Yeah.
in the areas around like Greensburg, which is about, I don't know, 35 minutes from where I am now, 35, 40 minutes from the city. But people think of a band like Inside Out and they like rave about the one album and stuff. And I think people think like these bands are like original bands when they are, but they didn't focus on that at all. You'd go see them live, and it was like they'd be playing like a lot of times like if they had an opening band, it was an opener, and then they do two sets. But a lot of times it
Yeah.
was a band doing three
Sure.
sets, and it was 90% covers,
Yeah.
and they'd sprinkle their stuff in. So, but it's interesting, like because the music, like their original music has caught on with some people, but they didn't like push it that
Yeah.
hard when they'd put these CDs out and then barely play the stuff live.
Yeah, but why go to that extent and why, spend the money to do that and then
I think
yeah,
that the prevailing thought was always that look, if you play all originals, no one wants to see that.
yeah,
Or it's not that people didn't want to see it necessarily, but it's like people want to see what they know. So if you play all originals, the fact of the matter is your crowd was going to be, if you're lucky, a tenth of the size that
yeah,
like
sure.
another band was going to have. If you played covers, you'd pack the room
Hmm.
if you were a talented band, and then you figure like you sprinkle your originals in and you sell more shit and make
Yeah,
more money as
yeah,
opposed and be able to do it for longer, then hopefully be able to push your, like Triple X would do this, like they'd play their regular weekend shows, um where they do a ton of covers and
yeah,
just sprinkle their originals in, but then they would do like the city would have, sometimes you'd have events in the city where there was like a day of like all local stuff where bands would just play.
sure.
You'd see Triple X would come out and just play a set of
Their
they'd
originals.
headline
Yeah.
all original material. Or there was a band called Sunset Strip that used to play a lot of. I think they were mostly all originals around here. They were
Yeah.
really good, and like the Granati brothers out here, they had a band called G Force. Like they would play original material.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess the prevailing thought was to build a following. You had to play the game, draw the people in, get your following to the point where people are coming to see you, and then they'd start to get to know your stuff,
Yeah.
and then you'd be able to play more of it. I never noticed that it really happened that way at regular shows. It
Hmm.
was still a lot of covers. But hey, I mean, when you're I don't know what those dudes made, but it was like they were making good coin like
Yeah.
back in the day. Like when you're packing joints out, those dudes were making good money, I think. So it's hard to,
I was just gonna
and
say that.
you're
Yeah.
drawing like if you're young dudes in a band like making money, drawing like tons of women in your shows, and um that's what those guys were, that's what some dudes wanted to do. Then you had bands like Phantom Crew that just played. They were from Indiana. They played thrash, all original, all the time. They
Yeah.
never bother with covers. I mean,
Yeah.
my band. Now, in retrospect, my band was, we were
Yeah.
okay for what we did. I think we were so in our infancy, really. So everyone from the band now, like, is just like so much of a better musician. Um, but we were like real snotty about the whole covers and original
Yeah.
things. We were like, we were going to play our songs whether
Yeah.
you like them or not. And
Yeah.
that was it. And we thought, and that, like, it just in retrospect, it's like you're just cutting off you have to play to your
I
audience.
know.
It's
I
like
know.
you could get away with playing originals more to like a younger crowd. I think teenagers are way more accepting of it and
Very,
expect it, whereas
very.
adults are like, dude, play some Aerosmith, play some Kiss, play something that I know, play Freebird right now,
Yep.
twice.
No, they're definitely, are those bands that, and I guess that's kind of what I was getting at. If you're dead set that when you play live, it's going to be mostly covers because that's where the money is. Money talks. I get it. I guess I would, if I was part of that band, I would have a hard time dropping the coin to record a whole bunch of originals, knowing that we're, probably never going to play them. It seems counterproductive to me. But y- you know,
I think, yeah, I think the hope of every band is like to, if they get the CD recorded, and at the time, it wasn't like it took a while before that the locally, like it actually took a while before the grunge thing really settled in. Like
yeah,
hair hair metal
It hung
was
on.
still drawing into
Hmm.
the into 93, 94, ninety
Sure.
five
Yep.
before, like, whereas nationally it was like dropping off.
Yeah.
But like bands were still drawing in the clubs.
Yeah.
So I think bands still had this idea that like they had to be able to show they had a following, and they had to be able to show that they sold, they could sell like CDs on their own. And then
Hmm.
I guess the hope was if they got picked up, that then they could, leave the cover stuff
Yeah.
behind. I can't speak for them though, but I
No.
think that's maybe why you'd be willing to sink the money into recording. And maybe it was just too like they wanted to be able to create, but to have it costs money to do it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not going to make coin playing that stuff you have to play Kiss and ACDC.
Yeah.
ACDC, especially around here, was big to to make the money to get your stuff recorded, to hopefully like get it into ears that
Yeah. I think it's very hard too, especially, in our age group now. They always say that people kind of top out and don't listen to anything new past like 30 years old or however it is.
yeah,
Now, maybe, you and I and the people we know are just,
nerds.
yeah, we're nerds. I still constantly seek out new music. But when it comes to like seeing, bands, to this day, it still just drives me crazy that people are willing to like go see the same cover bands weekend after weekend and pay like, a $20 cover to go hear Boston songs again, where, there's three really good original bands playing down the road for $5. To me, that's a no-brainer. But, when you put things in perspective, especially with our age group, I think a lot of that whole nostalgia thing just kicks in, and then that's their comfort zone. And I'm not going to deny anybody of that. I used to be that elitist guy, but I've really kind of come off my high horse in the last couple of years. And, I understand that it all serves its purpose. I mean, there's a band that plays around, my area, Chicago, Milwaukee, and everything called Infinity, which they're mainly a Journey tribute band, but they play
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of everything. Actually, their singer reminds me a hell of a lot of you, Butch. But and around the
And my
holidays,
Journey-esque tones.
you're in your best Steve Perry. But around the holidays, they actually do a hell of a Trans-Siberian Orchestra tribute. And
Nice.
Christina and I went. This is probably pushing, I don't know, 10 years ago now. But and you could hardly move. People go to that. And maybe it's because that's cheaper than paying to go see the real one. But I don't know. I'm getting a little off track here, I guess. But
Well, I hear you, man. I mean, I still have that a little bit of I for a long time had a elitist um, way of thinking and a chip on my shoulder. And
yeah,
honestly, like I still have a little bit of it, but it's strictly reserved now for I think there's room for everything in music. I don't begrudge anyone
yeah,
having fun playing music, making money playing music. If you want to be in a cover band, do it. There's a market for it.
yeah,
If you want to be in a tribute band, do it. There's a market for it.
yeah.
Anything like is better than sitting in a freaking cube.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you can make any money playing music, even just to like pay for the extras for your kids, or like to be
Yep.
able to go on vacation, like, or
Yeah.
just because you like playing music,
Because
like
you're
do
having
it. I don't
fun.
care I don't have a problem. The only time I have a problem with it is if I go to see, and I was like this in my 20s, I went to see Quiet Riot
Oh,
out at a place called the Magic Twanger in
that's a
um,
great name.
Ohio. And I went with my buddy Gary, who was in Child of Fire with me. Now in some great local bands of the Rattlebones, and he was in a band called the Claws
Mhm.
out in California. But yeah, man, we go to the show, and I got hammered early. And my one buddy Greg was outside. The one opening band was on, and they were playing cover after cover. And I remember I kept running outside. I'm like, Greg, I'm like, they're playing another fucking cover. Now they're playing Heart. And I was like getting so I'm like, if I go see when I go see an original band and a band like starts rolling out a set that's like 50% to 100% covers. I like
Yeah.
get so pissed about
Yep.
it
Yeah.
because not that I begrudge them having a good time, but it's just not the. I don't think that cover band should be opening for national acts.
No, I don't either.
I
Not at
think
all.
that's a place that a band that plays original music should be getting a chance to
Get it out there.
display what they can do.
Yeah.
That's that you didn't go see Kiss or Aerosmith or Ted Nugent back in the day or Rush and see an opening band that came out and played covers.
Right.
Like you saw other original bands, and that's
Right.
the way that I feel like it should be. I have good friends that play in cover bands. I would tell them to their face that I just don't think they should be opening. More power to them. I would
Yeah.
support them. I'm not gonna like be a
You're not going
dick
to be
and be
that
like,
guy in the
yeah,
corner.
I'm not gonna watch you play because you're playing covers. I'm just saying, like for me, it's just like a moral kind of thing. Now that
Yeah.
being said, watch. I'm putting a I'm getting the we're getting the band back together, like the cover band we had Captain Doobie and the Big Bamboo, and
I know. And
watch someday it's gonna happen someday that we're gonna get a chance to open for someone, and I'm gonna be like the hypocrite that's like, okay,
I have integrity. No. No, and I got a bunch of friends that play in cover bands and they have a hell of a time doing it and more power to them. Hell, I've said this a million times. I was in a cover band for a long time. The last, you know, original band I was in was called Trip X, by the way. And this was back in like 92, 93, 94. And we did like half original, half covers, but we never played out. We played in a big giant warehouse and just had big ass parties, and we had our own venue. We didn't need to go anywhere.
yeah,
We were
that shit's
we were
valid, man.
we were Kenosha's best kept secret, man. But yeah, I mean, I don't begrudge anybody. I played in a cover band for better part of, I don't know, 5 years it was after that, until my oldest was born. Then I kind of took a little break or back seat or however you want to put it. Had a good time. People came out. We got paid. We got drunk, and
Yeah, it's
it,
fun.
it's
It is
fun.
fun, man.
It's fun.
It's
So
fun.
if you're out there and you're playing, don't take too much of this to heart. If you're having a good time and you're happy and you
Do
go
it.
home with a smile on your face, fuck it. Have a great time doing
Make a joyful noise unto the universe.
it.
Seriously though, like
Hell yeah.
there's so much there's so much in life that's like dark and
Yeah.
gloomy, and
Yeah.
add fun to your life, add joy, play
Yeah.
music. It'll make other people happy too,
Yep.
and
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
there's nothing better than that.
Well, I think that's a good note to end on then. So I hope you
Sounds to
enjoyed
me.
this. I had a good time with this one. I was looking forward to
It was
this.
good.
Yeah. So, and we'll do more. I think I
We
know
make
that.
these 15-minute episodes 2 hours.
Well, I'm going to shoot for three. I'm going for three
Yeah,
next time.
we're going. We're gonna be like Dane Cook and do a 24-hour episode. We're gonna set records.
Go live marathon 24 hours. Here we go. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. If you've got, your local bands that you're want to get out and you loved them, grew up with them, tell us all about them. You know what this means. The comments. And then please like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Do
We
it.
love we love all of you who have already done that.
Seriously,
Thank you.
we do. Some of you more than others, but
Yeah, true. But oh well.
that's my. I gotta say, if your family's out there, you can't be like, we love you just the same as strangers.
Stranger danger.
If you get involved and comment, you won't be strangers anymore.
That's right. Join the For Sake of Heaviness family. So we gotta get like t-shirts and
Join the
stuff.
army.
Yeah. Yeah. Buy one of our coffee mugs. Buy this koozie.
Yeah, we're gonna be like doing that soon. Like, get us a cup of coffee.
Exactly. All right. I am
If you want, for the
merciful
sake of
Mike.
heaviness, t-shirts, let us know below. We will sell our souls. We are Gene Simmons fans. We will hawk everything we for the sake of heaviness toilet paper. You got it.
For the sake of Heaviness lunchboxes coming soon.
Yeah, that would be cool. I
Butch
get a
Balak.
thermos with Mike's face on it. I'm gonna drink out of your head. I'm unscrewing your skull.
I want a Butch action figure, man.
Would have a lot of
Uh,
action, wrist action.
with the little wind up. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. All right.
Pull the string in the back. It's another cover. It's another cover.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
Where are the posers? Where are the posers? Oh wait, I'm a poser. Take my metal badge.
Oh shit. All right, I'm Merciful
All right,
Mike. And
I'm
that
Butch
is
Bellich.
we'll see you on the very next episode of
For the
For the
sake
Sake
of
of
heaviness.
Heaviness. Yes. Whew. All right.